all sorts of terrible thoughts, like personally, and wanted to quit like everything, and it was very hard.
Why do you think that happened? Because people were mad that you left proof? What's going on, guys, and welcome back to ngmi, the Web3 show, also known as the future #1 podcast in the world. I am joined today, as always, by my incredible, hilarious, sexy, beautiful, and humble co-host, K-Money. Kevin, how are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. First podcast of 2023, so really excited, bro. And I think
absolutely.
I couldn't ask for a better guest to start off the new year with.
Right?
I'm excited.
Yeah, and I'd like to second that notion because today we have somebody who is a storied entrepreneur. If you only know him from Web3, you might not know how many companies this man has built. An investor, a father, and a founder of some of the most notable projects in the entire NFT space. We have legend Ryan Carson on the show. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you, man? How are you feeling?
I'm great. It's so fun to be here. I'm sad you didn't add sexy when you're talking about me. I
well,
feel
it's like a
super
thing.
left out.
Kevin and I are close like that. I didn't want, I don't know. Like, am I allowed to say that about Ryan Carson? He sold a lot of businesses. Weird. I don't know.
Yeah, you might lose a POAP or two if you come on a little too strong. So
no, it's fun to be here, y'all. I just a fan of both of you, and I've been watching K-Money's videos forever. I think he's one of the most hilarious people on the internet. So no, this is fun. I'm excited to chop it up.
Dude, I'm sorry. I'm just so distracted by like how good your voice sounds. It feels like I'm in like a live Twitter space.
Hello,
dude,
everybody.
Dude, I feel like you should do voice acting. I feel like this whole like tech business thing isn't really like
it's just a ruse. My actual job is I'm a voice on a Pixar movie. No.
I could see it. I could see it. Dude, thank you. I'm glad you're a fan of the videos. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I didn't really know who you were until like Web3. So my apologies, but after doing some research, like
it's okay.
like honestly, I think your success like prior to Web3 was like the ideal success that like Tim Ferriss would talk about, where it's like you want people to know your name but not your face. Right. And I think you accomplished that very well. But like luckily, we're blessed to see the face as well, almost as good as the voice.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, thank you for joining the pod. Dude, I just want to, because I know a lot of our listeners, like they're, coming from like the Web3 space, so they might not know a lot about your background. Do you mind giving like a brief intro for yourself?
Yeah, sure. So born and raised in the very exciting town of Colorado Springs, Colorado, which is also the Christian capital of America. Take it or leave, however you feel about that. That's what happened. And just grew up a great family, and my dad brought home a Apple IIe computer in 1987, I think, and I was like, "What's that?" And just fell in love with tech. But I also thought I was going to be a pastor, so there's that, which is a fun fact you may or may not know about me. So thought I was going to go the church route, but then computers took over, and ended up studying computer science. So I went to college, got a computer science degree, watched Notting Hill, the movie, and moved to London. And my mom
really
cried. Yeah, my mom sobbed. She dropped me off at the airport. This was in 2000, and she was like crying her eyes out. And I was like, "Mom, what's the deal?" She's like, "You're never gonna come back. You're gonna meet a girl." I was like, "I haven't met any girls yet. What are you talking about?" And,
you're like, "Mom, I'm in computer science."
Yeah, thanks, Colorado Springs and computer science. That's like the deadly combo, man. No.
Yeah.
Anyway, strikes. So sorry. So you went to London.
Yeah, I ended up going to Cambridge and just got a job as a web developer. And, that was just a huge life-changing experience. Like, I didn't know anyone in the whole country, abstracted myself from my worldview, my surroundings, and just changed everything. But fell into web, I would say, and just was blown away. Like, the community back then felt like Web3 now. So everyone was building and giving away their code and sharing and chatting, and it was just a dream. So I actually started this community called By Designers for Designers, which was a meetup because this was literally before social media. And we started meeting in a bar and saying, let's talk about web design. And we did one in London, and then someone said, I want to do one in Manchester. So we did that. And then I want to do one in Paris, and I want to do one in Atlanta. And it turned into this global community of web designers and web developers. And then that's when I knew, like, okay, I'm all in. But I was still a web developer, had a day job, literally just did this stuff in my free time. And then I basically watched Basecamp and 37 Signals, who are the original OG SaaS company. They launched this SaaS tool, and they told everyone, guess what? You can build a company. Just come up with a good idea, build it, get people to pay you $25 a month, and go. So I was like, yeah, I want to build a company. And so I quit my job in 2004, got married. So my mom was right. I stayed in England and ended up building my first company. And it was to send large files because you couldn't do that in 2004, as shocking as that is. There's no cloud,
Yeah.
And then build my first company.
Files all the time. So like, yeah, like as like, like a content creator and everything, thank you for, paving the path.
Yeah, we literally had to rack our own servers. Like we bought servers and put them in a colo, and there wasn't even a way to connect the hard drives. It was crazy. So built my first company. That failed. I just didn't know how to build a company or do anything. And then started basically teaching coding, because I realized, hey, if you can teach people to code, they can change their life. Like, it's literally like giving someone keys to unlock wealth and power and influence. So let's teach everyone to code. So started building companies that teach people how to code. And fast forward, ended up meeting Kevin Rose. He became my first investor. And then we've been friends for 15, 16 years now. And when my last company was acquired a year ago, I DM'd Kevin. I was like, man, let's go. And can I join Proof as COO? And he's like, let's do it. And so joined Proof to help boot it up, get it started. So it was a pretty wild journey to get to where I am now, but it's been fun.
Let me ask you, did Proof exist? And if so, for how long before the sort of like NFT collection itself existed? Or was it started with the intention of launching an NFT collection?
Well, so I was running my last company, and Kevin kept bothering me about this podcast called Modern Finance.
Yep.
And he's like, you should listen to this podcast. Like this Web3 thing is changing the world. And I actually mined Bitcoin in 2012. And so I understood what cryptocurrency was, but I hadn't learned about Ethereum, the actual power of smart contracts. And so I think he said, you should pay attention to this. And Kevin's very good at seeing the future. So I started to pay attention, started to read, and started to listen to the podcast. And so that was called Modern Finance. And then I remember the episode with DC Investor where he explained what an NFT was. And I was like, holy shit, a digital asset with provable ownership on a global database that no one controls. This is literally going to change the world. And, you have those moments where you realize something and you become like this zealot, like almost like you like join a cult. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to change the world. So then as I sold the company, I started to dive in, and then he launched Proof, the podcast, right? Which was about NFTs. And so I started listening to that. And then he said, hey man, I'm going to launch a collection, and it's going to be called Proof. It's going to be 1,000 people who are passionate about NFTs. And I was like, great, well, I'm going to mint that. And he's like, yeah, I'll hold one back for you. It's okay. And so joined Proof as a member. And then it took over my life because I had sold the company. And so, I didn't have anything else to do. And so I was in Discord all day, and my wife and my kids were like, are you a Discord moderator? What are you doing? And I was like, I guess I am. I don't know.
He's like, honey, I've sold 2 companies. I'm not a Discord mod. I'm a community member.
That was like cutting from my 12-year-old. He's like, you're a mod? I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, basically. And then I just got so passionate about Proof. I just said to Kevin, I'm like, man, let me help you build this. Like, I've built a bunch of companies. I can help you boot it up, because he was at True Ventures. And so I just leaned in and like put my hand up, and then we started building.
I love that. I love the fact that you, like, when you're telling me that, you know, you were like just in Discord all day, I was like, man, he's a Discord dog just like us, man. He's no different than us. Yeah.
Yep, man. I was on, you know, and like it scrolls. If you don't hold your finger on the phone, it's super annoying. You're like, oh my God, you know.
Yeah. It's, that's really cool. It's really cool the fact that, like, obviously, you know, you started off at Proof, like, pretty much from like the ground level, just like similar to like anyone else. And I think that's like inspirational for anyone else that does, you know, want to, you know, go up in the ranks, you know, in this space or like with like their favorite project or team. It's like, if you just kind of start off small and like understand, you know, all the ins and outs, then eventually, you know, you could go up and, you know, be COO of that company. I think that's kind of the beauty of Web3 also, is just the fact that like the entire playing field is like pretty level. Like, I mean, the fact that, you know, you're spending, you know, an hour out of your day to have a conversation with bozos like Champ and I, like that's that's the beauty of Web3.
It's mutual respect. I mean, it's fun for me too, right? You know, to hang out with you all. We talked about this on the Daily Dose the other day. Like, how do you create opportunities for yourself in Web3 if you want to get in? And we talked a lot about, okay, first it's about building relationships and offering value. Like, if you start building relationships and offering value, you start to build real relationships and friends. And then over time, then karma happens. And then you can put your hand up and they're like, hey, Ryan put in the work. He's offering a lot of value. You know, I don't want to go through some huge interview process. I just want to hire him, you know.
Dude.
And that's literally how the world works, right?
That is so, I'm so glad you bring that up. I was about to ask you about this. And by the way, you mentioned Daily Dose. We're going to talk about that later. I'm looking forward to that. I would also really quickly like to amend my earlier statement. I made a joke about Ryan selling 2 companies. He sold 3, I'm pretty sure, just so you know if you're listening.
Yeah, it's plenty of companies. You know,
yeah,
stuff.
Anyway, point I was going to make is my lead dev, or my CTO really, and my COO are both people who bought my NFT and said what's up to me in VC, and just essentially were like, hey, I can do this, I can do this. Okay, cool. You know what I mean? Yep. And now we work together, and that's the sort of Web3 magic to me, right? Yep. And what is really valuable to hear from you, because I know you have such immense business experience, is that sort of the validation that this is like a microcosm of the larger business world, right?
Yep.
And people always talk about, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and it certainly is both. But sometimes what you know and demonstrating that over and over again to the right people and building those relationships can make a huge difference. What I wanted to ask you is, can you talk to me more about that actual Proof experience, building this project and turning it into this like behemoth that it is today? And I'm very curious, because Proof has been certainly like the inspiration for and almost like a proof of concept of just how valuable simply a network, an exclusive group can be. So how did you go from being a Discord dog to where you are now, and talk to us a little bit about like that experience, right? Because Proof is legendary now. It's legendary.
It was wild to be inside of it. But the real power of Proof is the community. And that's, community is such a cliche, but here's what I mean by that. So what we did right, and it was really fun to be a part of this, is to develop trust and communication and transparency and openness between individuals. Like, that's actual community. And so what we did in the Discord, you know, and literally I was like, you know, I think I was the first person in Discord. He invited me first, and I started to, you know, get to know everybody. And then I was just human. Like, when people would come to Discord, I would say, hi, how's it going? Like, tell me about yourself. And then I would hop in VC and say, let's hang out. And I said this, I've been saying this a lot on Twitter recently. Why is Twitter Spaces so special? And it's because we've evolved over, you know, some believe that language first appeared 70,000 years ago, and advanced language arrived 10,000 years ago. So we've been speaking for 10,000 years to each other. And a lot of that is around campfires or small groups or in small buildings. And that's how we build actual relationship, right? And so if you hop in a VC in a Discord, you actually start building a relationship. You hear people's voice. Sometimes they turn on their camera and you're like, oh, you look like this and you're about this. And then you tell a story, like, and then your kids walk in the room and you start to get to know each other. So that happened in Proof. And I really kind of pushed hard on that and helped do that inside of Proof. And I think it built this trust in Proof that was really special. And that's the magic, right? And then you realize, oh, I've got all these friends now that are across the globe and they're all interesting. Like, they would turn on their camera and they're having coffee and looking out over, the water in Greece. And you're like, that's cool and interesting. And do you sail? Yeah, I do. Or, and you start to connect. So that's what was happening in the Discord. And then you layer on top, Kevin sprinkled magic on it, because when we launched Grails, like, that was the moment that it really started to go, astronomical, because he had built these relationships with artists, the world's best artists, and he brought them into the Grails 1 project. And so that mechanic created this unbelievable dynamic in the Discord. So the Grails project, for anyone that doesn't know, is very simple. If you're a Proof member, you got the right to mint a Grail. And a Grail, there was 20 artists, and you didn't know who they were. And you got to see the art, but you didn't know who the artist was. You just knew that they were some of the world's best artists. We're talking the best artists, right? So if you pick the right one, you may pick one that's worth 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 ETH, right? And it created this dynamic in the Discord that was hilarious and fun. And it was like this bonkers detective mission. And at that point, I joined the team, right? So we would tease things and have fun, and it just built this real dynamic of connection. And then, we went off to Kevin and Justin, and I'm not a co-founder. Everybody knows that, but I want to be clear about that. But Kevin and Justin are the co-founders, and we went to an offsite in Mexico, and Kevin said, let's make the community bigger. Let's launch a PFP. And so we were throwing around ideas like, well, what is it, an animal? What's the animal? And, came up with like bats and chickens and all sorts of stuff. And somebody said owls. And we're like, yeah, owls. So it was just a lot of making sure the community was very tight. And a lot of that is done through VC. A lot of it's done through real connection. And you can't fake it and you can't shortcut it.
Yeah, the human voice is like the most powerful tool on earth, in my opinion. The thing I love about hearing this like kind of story about Proof is, so I first, I'm a big Tim Ferriss fan, and like that's when I first, heard about Kevin Rose, because like I know him and Tim are good friends. Yep. I know Tim's mentioned many books, but I remember reading it in like Tools of Titans. He talks about the importance of creating your core audience. And it's like, funny enough, like he was just like, all you need is like 1,000 true fans, like 1,000 like people in a tight knit community. And it kind of seems like Proof, base their entire business model off of, some of those things. And like it like you guys essentially created the playbook of like what every project is kind of doing now, which I think is like the right move anyways. Like build your core audience of like 1,000 or so people, and then from there make it really tight knit, make everyone really just like fuck with each other, and then eventually start scaling it out. And I think you guys like did a great job at doing that.
Thanks. Yeah, 1,000 people you can get your head around. Like if you go into a chat room, you'll probably have 200 that are there, and out of that you've got 50 to 100 that are active, and that's a conversation you can manage and that you can understand, you can connect, and that's important. Communities can't really scale past what humans can comprehend and interact with. So I think there's a real problem here as communities try to expand to further than that, which is why I think we see this lack of actual community in these 10K collections, et cetera. There's actually not a community.
So,
right?
So then I have to ask you, right? Because you talk about expanding it with Moonbirds, right? So then how do you think about managing a community in a collection like Moonbirds?
The only way to do it is to create sub communities. That's the only real way to create a community.
Look at Utes, right? In there.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, I think this is just a hard fact. The Discords are too busy with 10K. Honestly, I loathe Discord. I hardly use it now. I only use it when I have to. I think everybody feels the same. And that's why we're all gravitating to Twitter Spaces, where it feels like you're actually being restored and listened to and entertained, and it doesn't feel like work. So I think that's where we're going. Now, when we were building Proof, like, Twitter Spaces was in its infancy. There was obviously Clubhouse, and that was kind of coming up. But I think we did the best we could using VC in the Discord, and that kind of helped us build that out. Now, we didn't, there wasn't that many big 10K collections when we launched Moonbirds that had been very successful. So there wasn't much of a playbook, right? You had your monsters, like BAYC and CryptoPunks, and others. There was a lot. But what I'm saying is there wasn't a clear playbook about how to create a 10K community. And I think what we learned is the sub-parliaments were very important. These are the groups of Moonbirds. They ended up having real communities.
So for sure. Yeah, just like Champ said, I think Utes is probably doing it like the best right now with their whole sub-DAO things. Like, as like a Utes holder, I will literally, I got invited to like Utes athletics, and then it's just like it's like a community of like a couple hundred people, and they're all like talking about their fitness goals, and they're all like sharing things like that, and it's like they're just like building those bonds as a community. So I think anyone listening to this, should like really emphasize these like kind of like sub DAOs or sub communities to help kind of manage their own community. It's interesting too, because so like in the TikTok world, I guess where is like my background, as cringe as that sounds.
It's not cringe. It's awesome.
It was interesting because like I've seen so many creators go and like, build like these massive audiences of like, like 1 to like 20 million, like, followers or something like that. But then, they'll do like a, like, let's say like a VidCon or like some sort of like convention and a meetup, and no one will show up. And it's just because their audience is so large that they didn't curate the like core, 1,000 or so people that they could actually connect with. And so I think this is something that like, not only businesses can take from, but like content creators as well. Like I think you always have to really cater to your, your core audience. And then I'm gonna figure out how to create like sub communities for, like a content kind of community. So I'll let you know how, like what I figure out for that. But
yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. I just think you can't fake community, and you can't shortcut it. And it takes time, and I actually think it's not super scalable. I think all these things are true, and I actually think we're seeing a problem now where we have token gated communities where you're like, oh wait, I can't be a part of this unless I have this PFP, and then if I sell that PFP, I'm not in the community. I think it's actually hard for humans to deal with. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Daily Dose is working, because who cares who you are? Just show up and be a part of it. Like, so I think we'll start to see more of that.
I agree. And the challenge is going to be how brands think about, I think, monetizing those efforts, right? Because the sort of core NFT monetization model thus far has just been like mints, right? But it creates a number of problems that you addressed. And something that really stuck out to me is when you said like communities are not in their nature scalable to a certain degree. And it reminds me of something that Zinica said to me one of the last times I spoke to him, which was, I was like, actually, he wasn't even speaking to me. He was speaking to the audience at an event we were at. And he said, do the unscalable, right? To the highest degree that you can, find high quality efforts that are not scalable and figure out how to do that as much as possible. There's no shortcuts. Yeah. And I think it's going to be interesting to hear how this sort of applies to Daily Dose, which is what I want to talk to you about, because it's been a huge deal on NFT Twitter recently. I kind of know what it is. I mean, I think I know what it is. Everybody, but I don't think anyone really knows what it is. Yeah, so like that can be my question. What is happening? Like, what is this?
So let me tell you the story, because I I think that's important. So everybody knows that I stepped away from Proof, right? And you know, I've had to tell this many, many times, so I'm not going to go over it. I have a big Twitter thread about it, but basically it came down to the fact that deep down I'm an entrepreneur and a founder. And you know, Kevin and Justin were moving to LA. I'm on the East Coast, and it came down to like, gosh, you know, I want to cheer you on, but I want to build. I want to steer my own ship. I'm just like deep down, that's who I am. You know, I helped boot this up. I'm proud of it. But you know, I got that itch, and also just like triple, you know, click on this. I didn't make any money from the mint. Kevin didn't make any money from the mint. Justin didn't make the mint. Like all the money went to the company. Right. So it's not like I ran off with anyone's money. I ran off with no money. But I had a deep desire to build. Right. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to cheer on Proof. I'm going to step to the sidelines. And I'll start a small NFT venture fund. Right. So raised about $4 million and started to deploy capital into projects. Was basically a one-man band. You know, I have an amazing associate that helps. So I was just doing that. Right. And let's be blunt. Like I went through some dark times during that. You know, I've never seen the level of FUD like personally I received. It was just,
I remember.
Brutal. It was brutal. I mean, dark times, like, you know, I had all sorts of terrible thoughts, like personally, and wanted to quit like everything. And it was very hard.
Why do you think that happened? Because people were mad that you left Proof?
It's hard for me to understand. Like I've still tried to, you know, I think it had to do with the fact maybe people thought I was leaving with some of the mint money, or I don't know. I mean, because you could ask me any question about my life and I would tell you the truth. Like I just am nothing to hide. Like, and I deeply care about people, and that's what was hard about it. I don't understand deeply why people were mad.
Well, it was. I remember also being kind of confused about it, and I'm you know, again, I don't want to just like twist the knife in it, but I want to talk to you about this because I talk about this relatively often. There are like some sort of fundamental maturity issues with the NFT space, largely I think due to the fact that like the space became so quickly so jaded and cynical because so many bad actors happened in like 6 months, right? But
it was all about money.
And it was all about money. But the average consumer though, and this is I think maybe why it would hit someone like you so hard, doesn't perceive these projects or anybody in the NFT space really as a proper business or an entrepreneur, you know, and it's the reason why you get on Twitter and a project will raise like $500,000, which you've run companies before, is how much runway in your average startup, right? And every tweet is, you know, clown emojis. Oh, they just made 500 as if the founder of this respective project is going to go, you know, just paid themselves $500,000.
6 months.
Yeah, you know
best.
What I mean?
Like,
you know, exactly. So I think that it can be really challenging for true entrepreneurs who are coming in the space and sort of see this as a vehicle to bootstrap efforts that they otherwise, you know, and sort of avoid the bureaucratic but bullshit that comes with sometimes VC funding in the traditional startup world. Yeah. But then, you know, the average NFT consumer is very cynical and is like, any money, they're like, fuck this person. So I have to think that's part of it for somebody like Ryan Carson.
I think part of it. So I think part of the problem is as well as how fast, you know, I exited, right? It was a surprise. Like, I think if we had slowed down that, it would have been easier. But basically what happened is I had asked Kevin, you know, months before, hey, do you mind if I spin up a VC fund on the side? A ton of entrepreneurs do that. And he's like, sure, fine. No big deal. You know, the only rule was don't ask Proof members to be investors. I was like, totally agree with that. So I just was kind of building this little fund on the side. I was going to do it in parallel. And the problem was I announced it and people perceived that it was like I was leaving Proof to do it, or I was using mint money to fund the fund. Like, it was just, I think, confusion around what was happening. And Kevin and Justin, when we met, because I knew that I was, you know, thinking about doing my own thing anyway, we just met and we're like, let's just speed this up, because the perception is so bad. Why don't I just make a quick exit because I don't want this to hurt proof. And that's basically what happened. It was like, all right, why don't I just step down quickly because everybody doesn't understand what's happening. And that was even harder because, we could have dragged it out, and I could have dragged it out for my well-being, but I didn't because I wanted to protect proof. So it was all just this huge bonkers misunderstanding. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to go do my own thing. Felt like I was literally alone for a long time, kind of just working away, deploying some capital. And what's interesting though, but I knew like, okay, I know my intentions are good. I know I have integrity. I know I did the right thing. So I'm just going to soldier through. We made, people, I think $250 million in 4 days with Moonbirds, right? And I had a hard time figuring out how anyone could be mad at me for that. But it's like, well, money makes people do crazy things, right? So essentially when I decided to step out, Kevin, Justin, and I agreed, let's just do this. Let's get it done. Let's rip off the Band-Aid. And then I just was running my fund. And then it was kind of interesting because I had to deal with this, FUD for a while. And then I had a couple of friends that were just, deeply amazing. They would DM me and support me and say, we know you did the right thing. We know you're fine. And just don't give up. And then what was interesting, so every day we were doing this analysis for the fund. We'd look at the markets, we'd look at the numbers. And I was like, if we're doing this every day, why don't we do a Twitter space about it? Because it's helpful. It's like good information, right? And maybe it would be fun for other people to know like how I look at investments and what I do. So let's create a Twitter space. And so, and then I was like, I'll call it the NFT Daily Dose. And I don't know, and I literally did the first one in a cab on the way home from the airport. And we had, I don't know, I feel like it was like a couple hundred people. I'd have to look. And a bunch of people joined, and it was fun. And I was like, well, that was fun. And that's literally how it started. And then I was meeting every day with my team on the fund, and we had decided, you know what? I think we can do a project that is much more than a project that could actually like change the game for the industry. But how do we do that? Okay, well, how do we figure out the allow list and how do we do all this? And then John, my associate, was like, well, why, G-Money did POAPs like for Admit One. Why don't we use POAPs? I'm like, oh, that's genius. Like, why don't we drop them on the show? And then it was like, okay, so we're going to launch a project. It's going to be really exciting. It's going to be a year from now. It's going to be a supply of 1,000. And the way you get on the allow list is you attend the show and you collect POAPs. And it just went mental. We had we have like 5,000 or 6,000 or 7,000 people a day now. It's just crazy.
Which is crazy, by the way. Absolute insanity.
It's mental. Now we put a lot of effort into the show. So every day we have show notes. We go through the list of topics. We refine it. We have a whole system so that the show feels like it delivers a lot of value to people, because that's actually what I want to do.
It's a great show, by the way.
Thanks.
Have you been inspired by shows like Rug Radio or any of these other ones?
I listen to Pio and Nick every day. And,
Yep.
and Coffee with Captain and Farouk. I love all these shows. Like, they're amazing. In fact, literally the reason why I have a Roadcaster is because of Pio. I DM'd him like, bro, like, I don't understand.
I really hope Road wrote Pio a check, man. Like that man has got everyone.
He put everyone on. I swear to God.
So he helped me get set up, and I was always on their show, hanging out, having fun. I have Coffee with Captain and listening to Farouk, and so we're all family. I think we all want everybody to win, but we want the whole space to grow. It's just been a blast.
Yeah. Dude, I remember when you were just getting fudded to smithereens, and like, dude, I remember, I always tell people in this space, I'm like, the only thing you like the only like goal you should have is like, just don't be the main character on the timeline. You know what I mean? And it's perfect because like, I feel like all of us at some point like have been like that. And I almost kind of look at it as like like just like a really toxic like initiation kind of process. You know what I mean? Because it's like from the outside looking in, you know, here you have this like, you know, really well established like, you know, like Web2 entrepreneur just like coming in like a part of like the #1 project at the time that's just going crazy, that just caught like everyone off guard out of left field. And then, you know, you make the exit as you should have. And as I think you made the right decision. But it's like the thing I've noticed is that like most people in this space that are like the angriest are usually the ones that have nothing to do with something. You know what I mean? So it's like, like if Moonbird's holders weren't pissed at you, then like no opinion should matter. You know what I mean? Because like their opinions are what matters most. But the thing about the space is like like the loudest voices are the ones that like don't really necessarily have anything meaningful to say.
They probably don't even follow you, right? So
100%.
Yeah, because actually,
and then like in this space, like if it bleeds, it reads, just like our traditional media. But like I think especially in this space, like
it's
like,
so crazy.
Yeah,
Kevin.
Misinformation gets like the craziest misinformed story will get way more engagement than the like boring truth.
Yep.
So that's
think about our friend Frank, bro. Like you know what I mean? Like yeah.
So what I learned, so I actually went private for a while on my account because I'm like, I literally can't deal with this FUD. So there was, I think
I remember I was trying to be a reply guy. It was very hard. Yeah, I was like, I could reply because he follows me, but like it's not going to get that much engagement.
No,
so like I had to tone down the funny.
So I just turned it off. And what's crazy is all the FUD disappeared literally instantly. And because it turns out it was coming from people that didn't even follow me. Like, didn't even care. Like didn't even, you know, so I was like, oh, that's interesting. These are all drive-by opinions. That's interesting. And so then I turned it back on. And then I just decided, you know what? I'm just never going to be negative on Twitter because it never helps anybody. So when I start to type don't on Twitter or never, I just stop. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to do it because it doesn't help anybody. So I focus on how can I help somebody? How can I provide value? How can I encourage somebody? Because that's all I really want to do anyway.
Every time, Ryan, every single time that I have taken time out of my day to reply to someone who is something really pissing me off, you know what I mean? Like blatant falsehoods about me or accusations, and it takes a long time because I'm like, I'm gonna prove you, and I put this reply out, and then an hour later I'm like, why did I do that?
I know, because it feels
you know what I mean?
good. It feels good at first, and then you realize I'm never gonna change this person's opinion. I'm only really encouraging them to engage with me more, and other people are seeing me kind of grasp. And then more people realize they have an opportunity to get a rise out of you as well. Yeah, and I've just switched the whole game personally for me. I'm like, you know what? Because actually, I do regret some of the tweets I made. You know, as I was leaving Proofs, things like, you know, Proof is going to be the #1 project because of XYZ, or Moonbirds is going to, you know, be the best because of ABC. And I just realized that doesn't help anybody. Like, and it only pisses off other projects, which what's the point? And this just doesn't lift up anybody. And so now, so the whole point of Daily Dose is to build an actual community. So like the allow list is fine. And, you know, I'm excited that people want to be on that, but that actually isn't what I'm passionate about. Like what I love about a Twitter space is that you come in, and if you host it right, like you can make people feel included, you can make them feel heard, you can educate them, you can inspire them, you can connect them, like in a way that literally wasn't possible before social audio. Like it's very special. And so the goal of the show is educate, inspire, connect. And we're seeing this community form. Yes, there's a POAP and everybody loves it. But we're actually seeing Daily Dose, France, Germany, Persia, India. Like people are spinning up all these community spaces and connecting with each other and creating these additional communities. And I'm like, you know what? This is amazing. Like this is really what I love.
Dude, you're the Web3 pastor, man. You know what I mean? It's like you're inspiring. You're being positive. You're helping motivate people. I love that, man.
That's what we all want. That's what we want.
100%.
down.
Yeah. For anyone that is listening, if you or your loved ones are getting fudded on Twitter and they happen to be like that main character, like the best advice I would give is like just don't engage with it. You don't like, because it's like at first, like I remember like for me when I was getting just destroyed over like my issue with like the whole Goblin Town fiasco.
That was ridiculous.
Like at first, like, you know, my ego was like upset whenever people weren't going out to bat for me. But then, like, you know, after like a couple of days of it, I realized I'm like, the best thing people can do is like just not even engage with this stuff. Like, you don't have to go defend me or whatever, because like the more you engage with it, like the more eyes are going to come like onto the whole topic, and then that's going to inspire like more kind of trolls to be like, oh, I can get engagement like this, like let me go, you know, send my dunk on them. I also had that issue too, because like I love my friends, like friendship and like, you know, people in my life are like my friends are my family, you know. So like when I see, you know, like let's say hypothetically, or not hypothetically, it happens all the time. Let's see when Frank D Gods is, you know, getting blamed for, you know, Solana's price being down 90% or something. It's like, you know, like at first I would just want to go out to bat because like I love that guy. He's like one of my good friends. But then I realized I'm like, dude, like I'm just like throwing gas on the fire like every single day that I'm doing that. So
I think the best thing is when you could just DM and someone say, hey man, I'm on your side. Like, I'm sorry that you're going through it, and it's going to be fine. Everyone will move on. Forget about it.
Yeah,
I mean, you know,
my go-to is I always just want to get on the phone with someone, because it's like when you speak to someone, you're speaking to another human. When you're typing something, it's like there's no emotions, there's no, you know, body language or like, you know, tonality changes or anything like that. So I feel like, you know, if you could just get someone on the phone, or even I mean, it's kind of risky, but like, you know, go into like a Twitter space and like just kind of talk it out. It's like you have more of a chance of like connecting on a human level. The issue though is that like people, when they like what I've been seeing a lot with like Twitter spaces, like more of like the kind of drama ones, is like they'll go say like spread crazy misinformation, get you riled up just so you could go into their Twitter space, and then boom, they have a show, they got the drama going, and then it's like you walk in there and you're like, you know, like they already have the high ground. It's like, you know, they're on the stage, they have the mute button, they have their speakers. It's like you're just getting jumped at that point, like, you know, social audio wise. So that is dangerous. I just think that the more we can humanize everybody and say, you know, and if I can hear your voice or if I can see your face, I realize, you know, you have weight you're carrying. You have loved ones you care about, you know, you have real stuff going on. I think we'll get better at this, but I think all of us in this space who are leaders can continue to lead by example and say, okay, you know, let's show everybody how to act in this space and be kind and supportive.
I think Web3 is really, really crazy. Specifically,
well, just have that be the quote.
Yeah, just end it right there.
Wait,
banger.
Or, well, first of all, but specifically for I'll call it for the empathetic entrepreneur. What I mean by that is, you know, entrepreneurs obviously primary prerogative and goal is always to build their business to be as valuable and large as possible. However, in Web3, more than in any other space, right? It's the only place that not the only place, one of the only places though, where the court of public opinion is simultaneously so important and loud and has complete disregard and gives no fucks whatsoever about someone's professional accomplishments. Right? Yeah. So you can have a Ryan Carson or a Kevin Rose or, you know, anybody, incredible, you know, Web2 business people that come in. You could launch a collection, you know, deliver immense value. Everybody who minted it is up 10x. You know what I mean? You could literally break off Ethereum once a month and just pay your holders. And it doesn't matter what decision you make. That 6 months after that, you know, maybe you're launching a new collection. I'm exiting this. Oh, I'm going to launch this subscription product. It's literally going to be like, you know what I mean? A tribe of people who, no matter what, are like, you are not only wrong, but you are a piece of shit, and you have no idea what's going on. And these are like random people who, you know what I mean? Like, and they have so much jurisdiction, it feels like. I don't know. It's just crazy.
So the reason why is because you have a financial asset with a price. And so this has not happened before, right? So in Web 1, Web 2, Web 0, you had public companies that had stocks, and there was a stock price, and everyone could trade it. But you had this quarterly cadence.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden you have a seed stage company within what feels like a stock ticker. Now, everyone, NFTs are not equity. So you want to be clear about that.
It's public. It's crazy. It's like a publicly traded startup
24/7.
Except the market's 24/7, and there's no option if you just want to buy the product but not invest. It's like you have to buy the publicly traded stock of the startup to use the product. You know what I mean? So it's
wild,
and it's mostly speculators, but then there are individuals who are like, I just want to buy it. You know what I mean?
It's bonkers.
It's crazy.
Yeah, this is literally why I started meditating. So I started meditating as soon as I entered Web3 because I'm like, I have to figure out how to calm my mind. I'm going to lose my mind. Like
your family was like, Ryan, when did you start meditating? You're like, honey, I'm getting fudded. Bad.
Yeah,
it's bad.
I'm so happy you brought that up, though, by the way, because I just want to say, like, what made me fall in love with the Ryan Carson as a human being, not just like, the guy that, just fucking pumped and dumped on his followers or like whatever these narratives are. But like you were literally like the first person I saw with like an actual platform in Web3 that was talking about like meditating daily. And it's like, for me, I meditate every single day. I've done it for years. I genuinely think that's like the main reason I'm like alive. You know what I mean? It really helps like heal and like, it's arguably the greatest thing on earth. And I'm always like, dude, like if every single person just meditated for 10 minutes before they went on Twitter, dude, Twitter would be like the greatest place on earth. Like every time I go on and I just see people like just tweeting threads and like just fighting and like, they're just like so reactive. I'm just like, bro, like if everyone just meditated, like the whole timeline would be such a like healthier place. And like, I got to give you your flowers for doing that because you were the first person I saw even like talk about meditation. And then you even helped inspired me because like I have those days, I'm not perfect, where I'm like, oh fuck it, like I feel like just watching my mental health decline really quickly today. I'm gonna skip meditation.
I'll be fine.
Yeah, and then I go on and I just see like you're like, oh, like just meditate or whatever. I'm like, fuck, like all right, like I should go do that. So thank you for that.
No problem. Thanks for supporting and echoing how important the message is. And if anyone's listening to this or watching this and doesn't know how to start, just download Headspace. It's free. It's guided meditation. You can literally know nothing about meditation. Just try it. And it's so great. It kind of guides you. And at first I was like, oh my God, either I'm going to fall asleep or not be able to, like, I'll be thinking about everything, constantly. And it turns out like, you can learn it. And then you can like learn to observe your thoughts instead of like decide to experience them, right? You can be present and like all these kind of things that are turn out to be very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Champ, did you meditate today?
Actually, no, I'm not even kidding. Last weekend I was like, I have to start again because I feel like I am dying sometimes. Like it's crazy. And it's not, and you know what's crazy, Ryan, is it's not even because I'm getting fudded. It's because I am making some really important decisions and I am like, but I'm anticipating the reaction. You know what I mean? Because I just know this game. And conversations like this one are immensely valuable to, I know, me and Kevin, because getting to speak to other people who kind of are in this game and who sort of knows what it feels like, because, and I don't say this to be exclusionary at all, but until you have been, in a position where you receive a lot of impressions or whatever in Web3, like it's I've ran big pages before and other, like, it's not an experience that I've had anywhere else. It's immense.
Yeah. It's
so to
bonkers.
answer, it's crazy. So to answer your question, actually, Kevin, yes.
Hey,
and
nice.
I reread some books that have greatly informed my life decisions and how to form habits that are going to put me in a good position. Which reminds me, before I get to ask Ryan, you have like 1,000 books behind you. Do you have a favorite book? Do you have a favorite book?
You know the hilarious thing? These are all my wife's. Literally all of them. Like,
Classic.
except for the one that says Star Wars. So I'm not a reader, y'all. I have a reading attention span of a gnat. Yeah. So I'm a listener. Yeah, I'm a listener and a watcher.
He's just like us. He's just like us.
Yeah, I wish I could read. So, but I absolutely love music. I love watching movies. Like I love watching documentaries. So yeah, that's my jam. So I try to read. I read for like 5 minutes in bed, and then I fall asleep. So
reading for me is like a part of a nightly routine if I want to go to bed, because I'll be like, let me open up this book, then like literally like clockwork. 5 minutes in, and I'm just like, I guess I can go to sleep. Like, I guess the 48 laws of power don't really matter,
if you just read one page a day for 1,000 days, you'll get there.
You'll read a big book. But I have been trying to be more disciplined. I have two phones.
Wow.
And the reason why is one is a work phone with Twitter and email, and one's not. And I'm getting a little better about turning the work phone off at 6 p.m.
Wow.
I want to check Twitter so bad. Like seriously, I'm addicted. But then that allows me to use this more, which is I write in this. This is like a kind of a big notebook thing, and to all my amazing ideas actually come out then. And I'm more present with my kids, my wife, and so that's one thing I'm doing more of. But it's such a marathon. Like if I thought like, oh my God, I started my first business in 2004, like it took me 18 years to like get here. Like that's crazy. I've been on Twitter since 2006. Like I was user number 14,000. Like, wow. And so when people think that somehow I shortcut it or something, or it's just not true. Like, and there's been so many times I wanted to quit. Like you wouldn't believe. I was like, oh my God, I just want to be an employee somewhere.
So important that you say that, by the way. I'm serious. Because successful people hate admitting that. I asked Elio Trades that. Kevin, I said when I had him on my channel, he said the same thing. And I'm terrified to say that out loud. I don't ever want anyone to hear me say that. But there have been multiple times in Web3 when I've been like, holy fuck. Yeah. Like this is really hard.
Yeah. Everyone fails a bunch of times. Like, my last business, Treehouse, didn't end the way I wanted it to. It was okay, but, it wasn't some home run. And we had to downsize the team, and it was brutal, right? So you have wins and you have losses. Like, and so I think when something is working, you just cherish it and be like, wow, this is working. I'm just so thankful this is working right now, and you just go with it. And the other lesson to learn is like, people look at Daily Dose like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is a huge space, and this is really successful. And the hilarious thing is, my first you should go out and look at the first app. It's hilarious. It's literally clip art. I actually Googled like free clip art that looks like a badge. And I used it because I'm like, I just wanted to make a app and see if this works and see if anybody wants it. And 10 people minted it, and it's hilariously bad. And you're like, don't be afraid just to try and iterate as fast as you can to figure out if something's working or not.
Yeah, you got to fail fast. I love the fact that you did the POAP thing, because you're such a trendsetter that it's like, dude, like every space I see now is just like doing a POAP.
I know, it's hilarious.
And I love it because it's like, I see like a lot of these people, like, and not a dig or anything at them, because like, you got to like figure it out while you're kind of in the motions. But yeah, I see a lot of people who are like, I was like, oh, like what's the goal for like the POAP? Like what's the vision? They're like, I don't know. Like people want
that's not gonna work.
I was like, that's not gonna work. But there are those few people that are gonna figure out how to like, build a parachute on their way down. So like they'll figure it out. And those are the people that usually find like the take that like isn't necessarily seen by most people, and like they'll be successful with it. So that's cool. I love the fact that you guys are just like talking about wanting to quit. You guys are a bunch of fucking quitters.
I know. I feel like a quitter sometimes. I'm like,
it's hilarious because like, dude, like Champ has had to hear me talk about for the whole past like 6 months about like wanting to quit, and it's like I'm not even a founder. Like I'm not even like I'm just making jokes on the internet. But it's but
it doesn't matter. You're in the same.
No, but for sure. But yeah, like it was different for me because like it's refreshing to hear you talk about how it is a marathon, because it definitely is. And I should have like really acknowledged that earlier on in like my career under like K Money, because man, when I started out, like because like I've been making content, you know, for years, and so when I started making it like, you know, about Web3, I was like, oh wow, like this is really taking off. But I was just like enjoying doing it because like I just love Web3 and I love making content. But then once I started like getting like some followers and stuff, like I just had like that like same kind of paranoia I think most content creators have, where it's just like, oh, this is not gonna last. Like I need to this is gonna die tomorrow if I don't just like keep going. So like I was just like in a sprint for like the first like 6 months, like just making content like every other day. Yeah, being on Twitter like 16 hours a day, like, and ultimately like all that led to was just like this like crazy prolonged burnout, where it's like, you know, I lost like, you know, 30 pounds of like, you know, muscle mass, like ruined a lot of relationships, like, you know, destroyed my sleeping habits, like stopped eating. Like I eat maybe like I think like once a day now, if that, and like, yeah, like that sprint just like led to like such an exhaustion. And so I think anyone, you know, who is listening that is like, you know, a new project founder or a creator or just a human being, it's like you just have to really, you know, take your time, do the meditations, like take care of yourself, have balance. Like I think, you know, you having 2 phones and like, you know, getting off like your work phone at 6 p.m. like that's the actual alpha in life. You know what I mean? Like, because like these are the things that, you know, you hear it here and there, and it sounds good in a book if you're reading it right before bed. But the thing is like this is what really like separates people like from like living like prosperous, like healthy, balanced lives versus people who are just working themselves to death just to get fudded by, you know, like someone with a fucking frog PFP or something on Twitter.
Hey, the plague are pumping right now. Chill out, Kevin.
Hey, this isn't a dig at the plague, bro.
Oh no, FUD incoming.
No,
yeah, Kevin, you're so right, dude. It's hard, man.
Relationships, I think deep down, like the relationships that you build along the way, like end up being truly, truly wonderful. Like, and it kind of outlasts any PFP or any company or any asset, you know. And I mean, just look at Kevin and I. We met back in 2006, maybe 5. Like, we're still friends now. Like, we built all these things. We've done all these things. Like, the time and effort you put into actually helping people and building relationships, like that will somehow karmically come back to make your life wonderful. If you just think about other people a little bit. And
I found my Kevin via Web3 as well. This is like
hey, there you go.
I've had in years, man. So, it goes that way. Do you, Ryan? I know it's almost 2:30. Do you have a hard stop? Like
I can go. I can go a little longer.
Okay.
Oh wow, let's go.
Can
we get a POAP from this?
Hey, yeah, POAP. The code is.
I have to do this. I have to do this for the Moon Boys in the comments in the back. I want to talk to you a little bit about the NFT market because we have to, and things are very exciting, and that's our thing. And things are very exciting right now. What are your thoughts about the NFT market in 2023? And to put it bluntly, like, do you see this being a good year for NFTs?
So I think we're still completely attached to the macroeconomic narrative. Yes. As much as we all wish that we had some, counter operating asset class here, we don't. So I think it's going to be all about inflation and interest rates, and what happens in Russia and China. And so what I hope happens, I'll tell you that, is that the Fed continues to slow down interest rate hikes, which will give people to pump money back into risk on assets, which is what NFTs are, right? So I feel it happening. We actually talked about this in Daily Dose today, and we surveyed the audience, and actually the number one result was cautiously buying back in. That's the way people are feeling.
Yep.
And I'm the same. So we're deploying capital into projects where I have deep belief in the founder. That's like thing one. And for me, the founder has to have deep experience. That's literally why we just, bid on 24 captains yesterday. Because it's like, well, Ray's been doing this since I think 2011, and he knows what he's doing.
And he's a beast. We just had him on the show. Dude is a beast.
I mean, I'm going to bet on that guy. And I'm going to hold. So my fund is a 4-year fund. So like if I'm going to buy, I'm going to think about holding for 4 years. So yeah, we're going to deploy capital not into as many projects. It's going to be deeper into, a couple projects. And I've been blunt about this. One of them is Pudgy. I spent a lot of time with Luca. And I don't know how you can't spend like 10 minutes with Luca and then not bet on him as an entrepreneur. You're like, oh my God, he's a beast.
Yeah.
Like, why, and so, people like that is like, I'm going to put my money on that. Newer stuff, definitely being cautious about. I think all the narratives are changing, right? The whole 10K thing, I think is going away. Like, I just don't think there's a reality where, 10K PFPs make any sense in the future. It's all about smaller collections with deep experience on the founders that have real economic, paths to revenue. I think it's going to be an interesting year, but I do believe on the whole, it's going to be a fun year.
The challenge is, I'm telling you, the challenge isn't just path to revenue. I know a lot of people who have good ideas for path to revenue. The challenge is path to revenue without getting fudded to death and destroying the brand. I'm serious.
Totally right.
It really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that means we need to reset our expectations of how much these assets should be worth. Yeah. So, like I was on a space yesterday or something, and they said, what do you think Captains is going to be? 10 to 20 to 40 ETH? And I was like, hell no. And I hope not. Like, I mean, that's $20,000. Like, are you serious? These things should be worth hundreds of dollars. Like, these are digital collectibles. Like, we need to reset our entire expectation on what NFTs are and are worth. Otherwise,
yeah, but they're not going to be 3-digit assets. There's no way on day one. There's no way.
Well, if it costs 4 digits to mint,
Yeah, that's
if it costs 4 to 5, digits to mint, I really hope it's not going to be 3 digits. I'm so grateful that this episode's coming after the captains come out. Like,
but Ryan, you make a really good point. And actually, I think the sooner the mark, it's going to take a while, I think, but like, the sooner we can begin to treat these things at sort of face value, I think the sooner that we're going to move towards sustainable business models, because whenever the larger amount of money is involved, the more heightened the emotions get, right? But theoretically, if these things are being priced appropriately for what the offering is, a project should be considered successful for coming out and being the same price. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's just not how it works.
No, I think what people need to understand is an actual community is all that matters.
Yep.
If you don't understand how to build a community, you're not willing to take the time to do it and then deliver value to that community. And I mean actual value, and the actual value is connection. Like that is what is important. And if you think about the brands that you're attached to and you care about, it's always because you have a connection to people in that community. Like, for instance, I'm a sailor. I don't have like a deep passion for the brand of my sailboat. Like, I am attached to other sailors that I know because we have experiences together. Like, that's a community, right? And I think people need to really wrap their head around it. Gambling is gambling, and that's fun. And if folks want to do that, there's always a place for that. And I have no problem with that, right? But that's not what we're doing in NFTs, right? I think we're building the future of companies.
I mean, gambling might be what DNP3 is doing, but
wow,
dude. Other than DNP3, but yeah. Sorry, I just had to take one jab this whole episode. I'm like, I didn't meditate today.
That was in poor taste.
Okay, it was.
It's Kevin's job.
That's true.
That's Kevin's job.
I get canceled. I get canceled every 3 months on Twitter, so
Okay,
I just have
so
to make
time.
sure, things are in line.
You're about to have to come on and do like next episode is gonna be like the newest Impulsive episode, and you're gonna have to apologize for like.
To start out like, I'm sorry. Like,
but you know, anyway, we've held you a little bit over, Kevin. I'll close by saying the following: like, hosting a podcast is really cool because you have an excuse to punch way above your weight and talk to people who you otherwise may have never been introduced to. And conversations like this one are really cool, not only because you're a successful business person, but because you're very transparent, I think, about what the experience is actually like. What I love about Web3 so much is it really kind of closes the gap between the average consumer and the people sort of at the top of the ladder, and I think gives some real insight to the fact that there's not that big of a difference.
We're all just people trying to figure stuff out.
Exactly. And I can't, thank you enough for being really transparent about what you've gone through, what you're still going through and working on.
Always.
To close, I have to it is literally my fiduciary duty to ask you, do you have any Alpha on Daily Dose that you can give us?
Oh, I do. It's that's why I'm here, isn't it? God damn it. Okay. Leave. That's what I'm no. I think the Alpha is that I deeply care about building real communities. Like I deeply, deeply care about that. And so I think if people want to be a part of a real community, like one where they feel included and heard and supported and encouraged, and it's not all about number go up, like hang out with us, that's it. There's fun stuff coming. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be great. Like there's only 1,000 people on the allow list. There's going to be, tens of thousands of people that don't get on it. Right. And we have a really, really fun plan for everyone that doesn't get on it. Like, cause the community is going to be global. It's going to be, it's going to last years. Like come for that. And
I'm excited to hear the plans for the people who aren't on it, because like my sleep schedule is so fucked up. There's no way I'm like ever going to be able to attend any of them. Yeah, exactly. I'll be happy if I get one POAP.
You'll be fine. That's the beauty of it. Like the Daily Dose is never going to require you to have a PFP or an NFT to be a part of it. That's cool. It's going to be the kind of community that you can just be a part of. So I think that's the Alpha. And it's going to be fun along the way. So come to the show. If you're listening to this show, you haven't been to the Daily Dose, come on out. It's fun.
Dude, thank you. Ryan, seriously, man, thank you so much for your time. Yeah, this has been fun. This has been really refreshing. You're a great guy, and I'm glad to
I appreciate that.
Yeah, glad to have had this conversation with you, and looking forward to seeing your tweets up until 6 p.m. Eastern, and your daily meditation. So
yeah, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for letting me on the show. It's been a lot of fun, and I respect you both. So,
dude, thank you so much. All right, guys, this has been ngmi. Make sure to like, subscribe. I'm really bad at this, champ. Please, you too, bro.
Please help.
It's over.